Okay, how was your guys' week?
Pretty good so far. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. It's been busy. I'm looking forward to kind of diving in with you guys. I'll be with you for the next 3 or 4 sessions. So I'm excited to kind of get started. And Dave wanted me to let you guys know. I know you guys were kind of still working on the industry information, and I'm sure there's like a lot of questions around that. He's gonna jump back in at some point and kind of um, help you guys out if you guys have any questions on that, and then also kind of recap all of that. And I want to make sure I'm on the same page with where you guys are at. I believe you have not started the terminology section yet. Is that correct? Okay.
On sorry, like by terminology, do you mean like on Monday we went over some parts of lesson two, but it was like over like going over like the bank industry and understanding like what they do.
Yeah, so that's what Dave will kind of finish up with you guys at a later time. We're going to actually be kind of jumping ahead just due to the timeline of this. And I know you guys haven't really dove into, I believe it's lesson three, but that's going to be starting the terminology. So things like rent roll, T12s, and that stuff. That's what we're going to be jumping in, and I'll be kind of going over with you guys. So I thought, I'm sure you guys have all done this before, we would, since it's an introduction and you guys haven't started on this, we would start with a little Kahoot. Whether you guys love them or hate them, we're gonna do it. So let me pull this up, and if you guys can get your phones out, um, yeah, like play along. And why I'm doing that, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. Okay. Ignore, hold on 1 second. I don't know if the sound's gonna come through, but let me know if it does, because it might be kind of annoying if it echoes. Okay, can you guys hear the sound? Okay, sweet. Yeah, enter the pin and we'll get started. Does anybody like love Kahoot? Like this is their favorite? I mean, my college professors all use it. Maybe your guys' don't, but
I used it a lot in the middle school.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And high school. I used it a lot in high school.
See, I feel like I use it way more in college for some reason. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're waiting on one more person.
That would be me.
Would you guys like the sound on or off?
I like it. I like the theme of Kahoot, so you can leave it on.
Perfect. Okay, here we go. Try your best. I'll read the questions for you and then terminology introduction. What is a T12? I can read these out. The last 12 months of the year, the top 12 lenders, trailing 12 months of a property profit and loss statement, the last 12 months of your tax return. Hey, good job, everyone. Okay. Suha takes the lead. What is a profit and loss? How much money you make on your taxes, total income minus operating expenses with the net income, the balance sheet, how much money you make on a loan transaction. Good work. Wow. 2 out of 2 for everyone. Okay, what is a balance sheet? It's how you balance paper, profit and loss. If the company's, oh, there we go. There better be one in here that stumps you guys. What is a pro forma? A way to do analysis, the length it will take to complete a project, looking into the future for project projections, a professional team. Looking into the future for project projections. And just as a heads up, you guys will probably see very, very similar questions in your the trainual. So this will just get you ahead of that and you guys will like be on top of it. What is a rent roll? Something the lender uses to determine how many rental properties are in Arizona, a rolling list of rental properties, a place that you rent in Arizona, a summary of the property's tenant, which include things like monthly rent. Summary of the property's tenants. What are the articles of organization? Something you find in the Ninth Circuit Court, a document that makes an entity official based on the local jurisdiction, part of the original Declaration of Independence, closing loan document. Good job. What are articles of incorporation? The same thing as articles of organization, a document produced by the lenders, a document that makes an entity official based on the local jurisdiction, a way that a lawsuit unfolds. What is a personal guarantee? The borrower is personally responsible to pay the loan back. If it defaults, the title company must pay the loan back. The lender is personally responsible for paying the loan back. The borrower is personally liable for someone else's loan. Borrower is personally responsible. Why do we need to see someone's personal financial statement? The lender needs to see everything the borrower owns because it shows us the client's strength or lack thereof. The title company needs to see someone's cash flow because the lender needs to see someone's cash flow. Because it shows us the client's strength or lack thereof. Tate is still at the top. What does a K1 tell us? How much someone owes in taxes. It tells you about the client's net worth. Who to include as a guarantor on the loan. It tells us someone's ownership percentages in a corporation. Yeah, K1 is ownership percentage. Usually you'll see this on a tax return and lenders will always ask for this. What is a certificate of good standing? Certifies that someone has been doing well in their business. Certifies that a company is properly registered with the state. Certifies that a company is profitable. Certifies that a company is legally permitted to engage in business. So both of these were correct. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask, but just as a heads up, you'll be reviewing all of this information next time you go through Trainual, and then we'll go over some more after this quiz as well. What is a payoff letter? What you collect when you originate a loan, something a borrower uses to bribe the lender. Lender uses this to determine how much they need to pay off for a refinance, something that you need to get a loan. Great job, guys. What is a service contract? contract with a restaurant, contract for people that service Integrity Capital, contract with vendors working on the commercial building, a closing document. Nice. What is a UCC1 filing? Universal Connection Code. Legal notice filed by creditors as a way to publicly declare their rights. University Commercial Class stands for Uniform Commercial Code. And both of those were correct. Some of these have 2 correct answers, but sadly I only have the free version of Kahoot, so I can't let you guys choose both. So great job to all of you. What is sponsorship? This is more than likely the advertising format. This is someone you deal with in AA. This is another way of saying who the lender is. Sponsorship is another way of saying borrower. Sponsorship is another way of saying borrower is the correct answer. What is par? This means that the borrower is on equal terms with you. It means that the loan has been approved. In lending terms, the lender is quoting you with no origination fee. This is a golf term for each hole. Correct answer is it's a lending term, meaning that the lender is quoting you with no origination fee. Okay. What is a secondary source of repayment? This is your second payment for a loan. This is a second loan. This is a second form of payment if the first payment fails. Nice. Okay, it's still at the top. What is a DPO? The current lender is willing to take a discount off the face amount, discounted payoff, the direct payoff, the delegated premier officer, sorry. So both of those were correct. What is a C&I loan? They are loans which are non-real estate related, classic and industrial, commercial and industrial. These are nice. Both of those were correct. So they're non-real estate related, and it stands for commercial and industrial. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Like skipping ahead. What is a legal lending limit? Lending up to $30 million. Something that is illegal. Nice. Max capacity a bank can lend to one borrower at any given time. Is anybody gonna beat Tate? What is a rate lock agreement? The verbal contract to change the rate. Sorry about the spelling error. Agreement designed by the lender to lock the interest rate. The agreement to unwind a rate in the bond market. An agreement with the title company. You guys are smart. What is the interest rate index? This is how you hedge an interest rate indices. This is how you lock your home loan index based on financial instrument or basket of financial instruments, and index Integrity Capital built out. Good job. Got 3 more. How would you best describe a yield maintenance or defeasance prepayment penalty? Make whole provision, pain in the rear, something that can never be paid off when the lender sells an interest rate. Nice. Oh, never mind. Make whole provision is the correct answer. What do we mean by capital stack? A stack of building and construction conglomerates. How to make as much money as possible. Stacks of loans in the queue. Industry verbiage to show how the purchase of the real estate is happening. correct one is industry verbiage to show how the purchase of the real estate is happening. And last one, what is mezzanine financing? Financing to build a second level hybrid of debt and equity financing, a loan provided by Freddie Mac, financing for a small business owner. Correct. Okay, here we go. Good job, Suha. Good job, Juan. And good job. Okay. Let me get this turned off a second. Awesome. Thanks for playing along with me, guys. I appreciate that. Hopefully that kind of gives you guys a little snapshot. That's not all of the terminology you guys will be learning, but it's probably about a quarter of it or so, or a little more. But that was just a good introduction. So I'll just start going into it. Unless you guys have any questions, and we'll just jump right in. So the first term I wanted to go over was NDA. Does anybody know what like an NDA form is or what it stands for?
Is that a non-disclosure agreement?
Yeah, you are correct. Do you know what that is, Tate?
Wouldn't that essentially be that like everything is kind of under wraps between the two parties? Like you can't share any of the information being shared or any of the documentation kind of between them?
Yeah, exactly. It's basically an agreement between the two parties that it has a very high level of privacy, and so oftentimes this is signed by both parties, and you'll see it's a pretty you'll see this document when you're doing a loan most of the time. So okay, so the next term we're gonna go over is T12, and I believe this was in the quiz. Does anybody remember what that is or what it stands for?
Wasn't it paperwork that showed the profit and loss of the like building through the last 12 months?
Yeah, basically. So it's called the trailing 12. And it's basically terminology used for like income properties and sometimes businesses, but it basically tells the lender the profit and loss for the last 12 months. And so this will be another document. Like on my side of things, so since I'm kind of the loan coordinator, when the loan goes into like underwriting, a lot of the times the lender wants all these documents like T12, and they want to see it all, and they want to build out this kind of portfolio for the borrower, and they want to see how well this business is operating. And so this is just one of those documents that they'll request to see, and it's super important to ask for up front because most of the time the lender will ask for it. Okay, the next one is, I'm sure you guys have learned about this maybe in school or whatnot, but can anybody kind of explain what a profit and loss statement tells you?
I can go on that. Profit and loss statement shows us the gross profit margin, operating margin, and net income in there. So basically, what we do is like it shows all of the sales or the income that has been generated, all the expenses are deducted, and after that we get the operating, and then after operating we deduct the EBITDA, which is earning before income, interest, taxes, depreciation, and all of that, and that gives us a net profit. So basically it shows us what the profit is at the end for any transactions or any business.
Correct, that's exactly it. And yeah, this will be another document that they'll request to see for an operating business, or many times an income producing property. And basically the goal of this is to identify if this is an asset or a business, and what can support the requested debt amount on it. So great job, guys. Okay, so the next thing would be a balance sheet, which kind of, along the same terms as a profit and loss, but would somebody like to kind of just give an overview of what a balance sheet is?
It includes all the assets and liabilities of any operating business. So basically, in a balance sheet, you will be able to see what are the things that company owns and what are the things that they owe to someone else, and whether it's like how it has been financed, whether it is through equity or through liabilities, and all of that. All that information will be in balance sheet, and they are made once a year. It does not get carried forward every single year.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a snapshot versus being like over like a time period. So it's a snapshot of a specific date, and just like what Rimsa said, it shows the company's assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay, so I know in the quiz there was a part about a performa. Are you guys familiar with performas? And if you are, or if you're not, that's okay. I can kind of go into it. But if you are familiar with it, kind of give me a rundown of what it is. Tate, I see you smiling. Do you know what a performa is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
No, yeah.
No, that's totally fine. Anyone else want to give it just a shot of what it was?
Is the performa kind of just like a graph that like analyzes like the trends and like kind of predicting where a company is headed in the future?
Yes, kind of. So I wouldn't necessarily say a graph. I mean, I haven't on my end of things, I haven't necessarily seen a graph come through. It's more of like an Excel document that the company will put together to show the future profit and loss. And basically what this is going to tell, so it's like a projection for the lender to look at. And what they're trying to identify with this is when the project is going to happen and when it will become profitable. So they take this and they like build it out through the course of like there's a construction project going on. They want to see the pro forma of the construction project to see when this construction project will become profitable. So it's kind of a plan. It's built out usually in Excel, and there'll be a video on this in your guys' terminology section, and I believe there may be an example, but if not, you can always like Google like example of performa, because it's kind of interesting to look at and like see what they cover, and it goes like month by month what expenses there's gonna be, and then when they can finally start doing business. And again, like I said, you usually see this being used in a construction project, because oftentimes they need to see, once it's up and running and like when is it going to be profitable, and it just kind of paints this whole picture for the lender. Any
I have a
questions?
question. Is it similar to like a future cash flow forecast kind of thing in the construction side?
What do you mean by that, Kat? Like, are you saying like it helps kind of understand the cash flow of the business?
Like, because you said it is more based on like construction business and all of that. So is it kind of like a future cash flow for them, like which shows when the money is coming in, when it will be going out, and when they'll have a positive cash flow kind of? Is it a document that is similar to that? It's just my question.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of how to answer that, because I think I understand what you're saying, and yes, it is. I'm just hesitant to like with full confidence to say like exactly yes. So I would say just look at it as like a projection for, you're building this new building, and it's your projection to show like what we expect when we expect to become profitable. Because I feel like cash flow they often look at cash flow as like your personal cash flow and then the business cash flow, and then they'll do a global cash flow to make sure kind of risk management, to make sure they can lend you the money based on your global cash flow, and so they take into account kind of the past. I feel like this is more future projections of like when is it going to become profitable, but in a sense I think yes, it is a little bit like it shows the future cash flow. It's just when cash flow is often looked at in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is rent roll. This is a super big one in apartment buildings, office properties, industrial properties, retail properties, and the like. So oftentimes this will always be requested, like if somebody's buying an apartment building, the lender will always ask for the rent roll. And things that they include on a rent roll are things like the square footage that they occupy, the tenants' names, the month and annual rent they pay, any other common expenses that they'll be paying, and it just helps the lender understand the income that's being generated from the property in the most recent date, and then when it's collected, they want to make sure that this is like complete and up to date. So sometimes if they have like rent roll from a couple of years ago, they'll need more recent up-to-date rent roll because you like within 2 years there could be a few tenants that move out of an apartment building and could be changed. So they want the most recent up-to-date, but it literally will, like for apartment buildings, they'll want to see like the name of the tenant and when their lease is and everything. So all of that information is requested from the lender, especially in things like apartment buildings, office buildings, and the like. Any questions around that? That makes sense. Okay, so a few of the other things that were covered in that quiz are things like articles of organization, articles of incorporation, and both of these documents are very standard requested documents from a lender. And I don't know if you guys have ever been onto like your state's corporation commission, but if you go on to like the Arizona Corporation Commission, you can look up any LLC and you can see who the owner is and if it's an active LLC and if it's in good standing. And this is super important for the lender to know if usually they need to have an LLC within the state that they're purchasing in, and if they don't, they have to register it as a foreign entity, so that there's a lot of kind of hoops to jump through as far as like if they are going to buy a building with an LLC, and they're buying the building in Arizona, but their LLC is registered under the state of California, they may need to register that LLC in the state of Arizona as a foreign entity in order to purchase the building in Arizona. And that's just due to the requirements set by the lender. And basically what the articles of organization tells you, it's a formal document that establishes the LLC at a state level. Can anybody tell me? I'm sure you guys all know, but we'll see. Can anybody tell me what a limit or an LLC stands for? I almost just gave it away.
Limited liability corporations.
Yeah, close. Limited liability company.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this is how usually the borrower takes title to protect themselves from harm. So what I mean by this is if somebody, buys a CVS and they bought it under their LLC, and if somebody slipped and fell and they wanted to sue the entity basically protects the person and all of their assets from the person suing them. So the lender and the title company need to have a copy of the articles of organization, and they need to make sure it's signed by everyone, and they want to make sure basically that the borrower is protected, because this is how they usually take title. And then the articles of incorporation, very similar, but it's filed with the government body to legally document the creation of a corporation. So this usually includes the firm's name, the street address, and the agents for the service of process, and whatnot. Does anybody have have you guys created your own LLC at all and kind of been through this process?
Not in US, but I've seen this in process in back home.
Okay. yeah, some people, I mean, have created LLCs for, I don't know, small businesses or whatnot. So I was just curious to, because there's a little bit of a process you have to go through, and each state, just kind of working with borrowers, each state has a little bit of a different process. And like in Arizona, I think they're pretty quick with like their turnaround time. If you want to register for an LLC, they can kind of get that back to you pretty quickly. But like some states like California, I believe, are a little more like slow on that process. So if some if somebody goes and wants to buy a building and they want to buy it through this brand new LLC, they'll want to make sure to start that process pretty like quickly, because you never want that to delay closing on a loan, right? Because they need all that. They need the articles of incorporation and the articles of organization in order to close the loan. So all of these kind of documents and things are really important to always get up front, because you never want it to delay. And Integrity Capital is really big on like being super proactive, kind of being one step ahead of the game on asking for items and documents, so that when it comes to closing, it's a really smooth and successful closing. Because when closing happens, it's usually just reviewing the loan docs from the lender, going in for signing, and then paying the amounts out to all the correct parties. So you don't want to have all these loose end items, that you haven't figured out, that could hold it up a couple days. Okay, so a K-1 form, I briefly
Hey,
talked
Mac, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but like you kind of dove into this for a little bit, but are there any kind of requirements? And you said it's different per state, but what are the requirements for starting an LLC?
Oh, that's a great question. I wish I had the answers to that. But I believe, if like, what state are you in again?
Texas.
Texas. So yeah, each state has a little bit different requirements. So I would go on look up Texas Corporation Commission.
Hmm.
I can do this too and kind of see if I find anything. Because I personally have never like registered for an LLC. I've just been on the other side of it, where I'm constantly asking for borrowers for their documents, and then I've kind of assisted borrowers and helping them, like, direct them to the correct corporation commission. But if you go on that website, Texas should have one. It might be county by county, but it could be, because Texas is a huge state. So I just don't know if they have like one Texas Corporation Commission or different counties. I would look it up, and they usually have it broken down pretty simply as to what it takes to register for an LLC.
Okay, thanks, Mackie.
Yeah. Okay, so jumping back into it, a K-1 form. So I mentioned this in the tax return, that you would usually see this, but a K-1 is a federal document used to report the income, losses, and dividends of a business or financial entity's partnership or an S corporation shareholder. So it's prepared for each individual partner, and is included with the partner's personal tax returns. So there's different tax return forms, and this is something that I'm still kind of learning more about as I dive more into kind of the loan processing side of things, because what lenders will do is they'll usually ask for the past 3 years of personal tax returns, and then they'll also ask for the past 3 years of business tax returns. And what they'll do with that is they'll go on there, and they have they'll cash flow, they'll kind of build out the cash flow for the borrower using the last 3 years of their tax returns. And so if you have an S corporation and you pay yourself a dividend, that will be reported on the K-1 statement. The K-1 statement also shows the ownership percentage of the S corporation. So if me and my friend owned an L or S corporation together, the K-1 is the only spot you will find the percentage. So maybe I own 50% and they own 50%, it would break that down. Maybe I own 100% of that business, and then that would be reported on there. And that's really important to know how much was paid out to the partners within that corporation and whatnot. Let me see if I can pull up an example of the K1 to show you guys a second. Hold on, it's loading. This might be a little fuzzy, but we'll work with it. What can you guys see right now?
It says it's, oh, I can see it now.
Okay, perfect. So this is what a Schedule K1 looks like. This is the form 1065. And basically the highlighted things that lenders and then within our company, like sales associates usually kind of go through this themselves. What they'll look at is the partnership's employer identification number that just tells you, like you can use that number to look up on the Corporation Commission to make sure that this is a registered LLC or corporation. And then it'll show, where is it? Hard to see when it's not filled in, but over here somewhere they show you the ownership percentage. And then over here, it'll show you the biggest number you're kind of looking for on this one is the distributions, and that's how much they paid out, if they paid out any money to themselves or to a partner, and that will be shown right there. And there's another place on the tax return that that's also shown, but this is like super brief overview. And some of this may be like really confusing. I apologize if I'm not explaining it super well, but I kind of just want to get you guys kind of thinking about it. And then when you guys kind of go into the Trainual videos and assignments, you guys will kind of be already aware of some of these things, and you can kind of look into them further and then come back with some more questions after kind of working through some of those videos and whatnot. So let's see here. Just getting back to my notes. Okay, so a non-recourse and personal guarantee, that was kind of briefly touched in the quiz as well, but when someone signs a personal guarantee, they are giving the lender the right to pursue them personally, even if there is a loan default. So typically, anyone that has 20% or more ownership in an operating business will have to sign that guarantee. So this would include any and all spouses, and they would have to sign a spousal waiver document. So let's say you default on your loan. The first course of action that the lender will take will be to pursue making sure that you get back on track. And so if you're not able to get back on track, they'll then begin pursuing legal actions to start foreclosing on the building or the assets. And then if the lender successfully forecloses on the assets, they will begin liquidation, which means selling the property to obtain cash. And if the proceeds from liquidation pays their loan off, then they will not pursue with legal recourse. But if there is still a balance after paying everything off with the liquidation amount, they'll have to pursue you personally for the loan amount that is left to be paid off. So that's what it means when you sign a personal guarantee, is that they could go pursue you personally if the loan defaults and the loan doesn't get paid off with any of the liquidation. However, if you sign a non-recourse note, that means that there's no personal guarantee except for carve-outs. The word carve-outs, just keep that in mind. We'll go over that at a later time, but basically in this situation, they wouldn't come after you personally in a non-recourse. And for like typically recourse is for owner occupied, but for larger investment properties, for purchases over usually $5 million, it's pretty normal for you not to see personal guarantees. That would be more, they would be signing a non-recourse. So there's two, you could be either getting a recourse loan or a non-recourse loan. And then just kind of a recap, the non-recourse is they're not going after you personally, and the recourse is they could go after you personally if your loan defaults. Does anybody have any questions with that?
By default, you mean like if the loan falls through, like you fail to pay it?
Yes, correct. Okay. I'm not used to this much talking. My throat is dry. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions up until this point?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, it's with the recourse and non-recourse. Okay, so because recourse is basically it's going after the lender, right? So in this case, are we talking lender as a person or are we talking lender as a corporation?
So lender is the corporation. So it's not the person that's lender.
Okay.
Lender
So
would be to the corporation. And
so we are going after all the assets and everything that was kept as a collateral or anything for the loan in case of recourse, or even if it's not as a collateral, we are going after everything, but of the corporation, not of the personal property of the owners, right? At this point, I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, so are you saying for a recourse or non-recourse?
Recourse.
Recourse. Okay, so recourse would be if you defaulted on the loan, they would go after the lending company could go after you personally if you defaulted. So they would first try to get you back on track. And if that's not working, then they would start pursuing legal action and going after your business and foreclosing on your business and your assets and then liquidating that. And then if they can't pay off that loan with all of that, then they would go after you personally. So not the personal lender, but the lending company that lended them the money.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, of course. And that one took me some time to like understand. So what I found super helpful, I don't know if you guys have looked into this at all, but Investopedia really helped me understand the concepts because they had really good little videos, and Dave mentioned some of those. He might have put some of those videos in the course too, but they're super helpful and they explain things super well if you need more kind of clarification on that. Okay, so we go to, okay, so another legal document that they'll ask for is called a certificate of good standing. Does anybody know what that means?
Doesn't it just show that you are able to like run your corporation in the state that you're like, for example, the state of Arizona?
Yeah, basically. So it just
Yeah.
tells you that you're properly registered in the state. Everything's up to date. And typically there's an expiration date on a certificate of good standing. So it'll have to be renewed, and this will be another document that they'll ask for. kind of looks like a usually looks like kind of a big certificate, and you'll have to give this to the lenders. This comes from the Corporation Commission, similar to like where the articles of organization came from, but it's another document. And as you guys can see, as we're going through all this terminology stuff, it's a little bit scattered. We're kind of jumping around, but right now we're kind of looking specifically at these things that lenders will need to kind of paint this picture for the borrower, who they are they in good standing, do they have the cash flow? And there's a lot of work that goes up front into getting a loan. Like there's just a lot of documents that are requested. And then once you get those documents, there'll be more questions, because it goes from like, okay, we have this quote for you. And then once they approve it and, they accept the offer, then they're like, okay, we need all of these documents in order to go through an underwriting process and really kind of work this out. And these documents help paint a picture, but they usually bring up more questions in the process, because they'll be looking at, a tax return and see something on there and that doesn't match up with something else that they provided. And so then they're going to ask more questions on that. Why is this? Or, can you provide, they maybe have like another LLC on a tax return. Well, now they need the information on that LLC to understand that business. And so what I'm trying to kind of explain to you guys is there's a lot of work that goes into it up front, and we're kind of just trying to be as proactive as possible so that the borrower can kind of, while they have a sense of urgency, they can get these things done and knocked out, so that the end of the process is super smooth and everything's worked out very nicely, just because the lender usually wants everything. And depending on the different type of lender, some lenders require more, some require less. For example, have you guys talked about SBA loans at all? No. So an SBA loan is a small business loan. SBA loans, there's a ton of like requirements because it's a government agency, so they'll require like a lot of due diligence items, and it's a lot of heavy work up front. And then there's other, I'm trying to think of, have you talked about a hard money loan? A little bit? Or a bridge loan? Some of those are like they only
All
have
of
like
those are in lesson 2.
lesson 2. Okay, so you guys are kind of probably in the middle of that.
I was gonna say, I think those are latter half of lesson 2.
And
Yeah.
remind me, are you guys, so you met with Dave on Monday, you guys went through some of the lesson 2. Is this the week that you're finishing up lesson 2, like as far as on your own time in Trainual?
I think so.
I think so.
Is this not the first week of lesson 2?
Yeah, like
Mm,
I thought we were supposed to get done by like the middle of next week, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, so kind of like I said at the beginning, unfortunately, just with timelines, we're just gonna be I'm gonna be jumping ahead with you guys, and so that's why I wanted to kind of give you that introduction with the Kahoot. We're gonna kind of do a little more deeper dive right now, reviewing some of these terms. And Dave will be reaching out to you guys, I believe tomorrow, kind of connect with you with where you guys are at in the process, and then like kind of what assignments and things to move forward with. So I would just kind of continue to work through the assignments you guys are on right now and just kind of keep chipping away at that. And then on Monday, we'll reconnect and touch base with what you guys have completed, and then we'll have a better kind of plan as of Monday on how much to like, what assignments need to be completed by when. But just with Dave's schedule and how it worked out, this worked out better for us to just kind of jump ahead right now to the terminology. So okay, so I'm gonna go over just like one more topic, and then we'll wrap up here. So a payoff letter. I believe this was one of the ones you guys got 5 out of 5 on. So payoff letter, can anybody tell me what a payoff letter is? No? Okay, how about a refinance? Does anybody know what a refinance is?
Isn't that just when the like loan term is up, kind of looking back at it and seeing where the rate is at, negotiating for a higher or lower rate?
Yeah, so there's like different loan types. So people can either purchase a building or they can get a refinance on a building. So that means they own an existing building. So I own a apartment complex in Phoenix and I want to get a refinance. So I'm looking for better rate and terms on my existing loan, and I'm getting a new loan usually through a different company because usually they have better rates. So I would apply for a refinance through, I found a refinance loan that's at better rates. Well, currently you still have an existing loan. So that existing loan needs to be paid off. So a payoff letter is kind of in simple terms, the letter you receive from the current lender that you need to give to the now new lender in order for that current loan to be paid off, because you can't just leave that loan, the existing loan, just like, okay, well, I'm moving on to a new lender. You have to somehow pay it off. So the payoff letter is basically the letter from the current lender that you'll need to get at closing. So when funds go out on the day of closing, that current lender is paid off. So it's a pretty like basic letter. I've requested these from different companies before. Usually there's an expiration date on it. So you don't want to ask for a payoff letter at the beginning of a loan process, because usually the payoff letter expires after like a week or so. So usually you get this a week before closing. So the payoff letter is good through closing, and it just states who the lender is, where how much money needs to be paid, and who to pay it off to. So yeah, we will end there for now with the terms. That kind of gives us a pretty good introduction into terminology. And like I said, Dave will be reaching out to you guys all individually. So you guys can expect a call from him. And then, yeah, I'll be leading a few more of the sessions on terminology. So I would continue just working through what you're working through right now and what needs to be finished through the end of the week. And then on Monday, right now I'm scheduled to meet with you guys. If it's not me, it'll be Dave, but I'm scheduled to meet with you guys, and then we'll kind of jump into some more terminology, and I'll get you guys caught up to speed as to what assignments will need to be done by Wednesday, but just stay on your normal plan for now. And then if you guys want to jump ahead and you guys are ahead of schedule, you can start digging into the terminology stuff. But I would say, right, just finish what you guys are on right now and kind of been assigned to. But any other final questions? I mean, it doesn't have to be related necessarily to the terminology, but just questions in general.
I do have a question related to terminology. Is it updated, and is the lesson updated in Triennial?
Lesson 3, are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you looking at specifically?
I can only see lesson 1 and 2 from my side. That's why I was asking if lesson 3
Oh,
is
I see.
updated
So
with on.
it just hasn't been assigned to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Lesson
Okay.
3 is
No problem. If that's the case, then don't work ahead on it. And finish the assigned part you guys have due for lesson 2. And we'll
Do
go.
other people have lesson 3 assigned, or is it just me?
No, I only see lesson 1 and 2.
No problem. I apologize about that. Was my bad. But thank you for letting me know that. So I'm kind of aware that, I mean, you guys can't necessarily jump ahead. So yeah, I look forward to working with you guys some more on this, and I hope you guys have a great week and weekend. And yeah, let me know if you guys if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me or give me a call. I don't know if you guys have my email, but I can certainly send it to you, or you guys can reach out to Michelle or Dave and ask for it. So Awesome. It was great meeting with you guys all again. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank
Have-
you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.